Hi, welcome back. How are you, Andrea? It's good to see you again.
Good. Happy Tuesday. Coming at you on a
Well,
Tuesday.
it's been quite a week. This is the week of Purim, which is the story of Esther. I'm really
Love
excited
it.
about that. My girls, the Jewish tradition is like the girls dress up as like Queen Esther and stuff. So our girls
So
got
cool.
dresses and they're doing a whole thing. It's kind of it's exciting, but it kind of feels like the time we're in because in
Mhm.
Queen Esther, the Israelites got to turn around, and what was taken and meant for their harm, they got to turn
Mhm.
around and use for their good. And what their enemies used as weapons against them, the Israelites got to use against their enemies. It's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, so this is the week of Purim, and I think it's pretty accurate. I'm enjoying everything that's been going on. Like it's still Christmas every day. That's your saying.
Amen.
Did you see the probably the most atrocious thing that we found, Doge, since we spoke last time, was the $600,000 that was being put towards the study of menstrual cycles in men. I just, I just, there's not
You,
words.
you can't. I just can't. I just can't. You know what's funny is there was a lot of people online. I saw a lot of left, liberals going, Trump just misspoke. I love how many times they think he just misspeaks. Like he
Yeah.
says it wrong. Like they said it with hydroxychloroquine. He talked about bleach and it's horrible and he's going to kill people. And he was talking about HCQ. Well, this time they're all hot and heavy over the fact that he was saying that the government was spending money on transgender experiments with animals, but that's not what it was. They were saying he missed his words. Well, then the next day, the White House comes out and says, here's the bill. And it was like millions and millions of dollars. I think they sourced 4 or 5 different experiments where they were studying trans mice. Okay.
I just can't. Trans mice.
Well, and the what you brought up with the men and the menstrual cycles, I remember Tom and I on a show probably maybe even 2 years ago, year and a half ago, we were covering men who were talking about the ketchup popsicles
I
for
can't.
trannies.
Okay. I can't.
Yeah,
That's
it's the whole
disgusting.
thing. I'm not going to go on. You
Tom is
don't
not
even
even
want to
on
look
the
it
show
up.
today, and things like that are being said out loud. He's a bad
Well,
influence.
and then as far as Doge, one of my favorite things yesterday that I was covering was I can't remember his name, but I can pull it up and reference it later. But there was a guy on X that did a deep dive into AOC's spending in the last quarter of last year. So it's something like October to December. He was showing what she was doing, and it was pretty cool because he was like showing the receipts. Like this was well documented, and it was a whole thread. He kept going, and he exposed that she spent quite a bit of money of taxpayers' dollars on her dance lessons and to take her friends out to dinner multiple times, where it was like over $3,000 for dinner. And then her dance lessons were interesting. It was like she spent $800 one day, and then she paid the dance instructor like thousands and thousands of dollars the next day. And again, this was all our tax dollars. So we've been paying for AOC's dance lessons.
I just can't. I don't understand how some of this is not. I mean, all of it's illegal. Who in the world came up with a study for a menstrual cycle for men? I mean, who is that deranged? And instead of being put in an institution for saying that out loud, they were actually given money to.
Well, that's what our universities do. But what I try to tell people, so these individuals that were attacking me, I follow trolls and I get in trouble all over the place, and I love it. But these individuals were attacking me.
Yell at people for wearing a mask during COVID in the airport, guys. You couldn't be seen with her in the airport. She would start. So I'm not surprised.
All my lawyer friends were always like, she's the one we're going to have to bail out soon.
Yes. Yes.
But what I was trying to explain to people keep going, that can't be true. They didn't really spend money on that. And, the truth is they're right. No, we didn't really spend money on that. I would argue that AOC probably didn't give a dance instructor thousands and thousands of dollars for dance. This is called money laundering. Okay. I would argue that we probably didn't put millions of dollars into condoms, right? Remember the condoms that we were sending to like the Middle East or somewhere? I don't know where it was. When you look at the studies, but look at climate change. Look at the climate crisis. Right. When you look at the farce of these things, we can go through and Doge can uncover what they said they were spending the money on, but we're also finding empty, dilapidated buildings that they're using as the business address. It's called money laundering. So
Absolutely.
we're not saying that we actually believe or that someone actually cared, and maybe someone actually did care to study transgender mice, right? What we're saying is that someone got paid with our tax dollars for something that probably doesn't even exist.
I got to tell you this, I do think there's a lot of that goes on. I think in this case, we have seen such derangement from the left in pushing this insane, where there's no line between a boy and a girl. I think that they were probably actually studying menstrual cycles in men. I really think they were trying to make something there that wasn't, because they are psychotic, and they should have been institutionalized and not given money.
Well, and it's fortunately, and this is how God wins all the time. Fortunately, they pushed it too far. I really do believe that Trump was as victorious as he was this last election, very legitimately, because of the trans move. I mean, I know a lot of people who are still say, I miss the old Democrat Party. I miss kind of that sane Democrat mind, and I'm a little bit more central. And I really didn't want to vote for Trump, but I had to, because when you go after people's children, that's where the line is drawn. And the trans movement went way too far. We've got gays against groomers. Every single one of my gay friends, because I'm one of those Christians, I have a lot of gay friends, and there are a lot of good people out there that identify as gay, and I'm okay with that. That's the way Jesus walked the earth. I'm not going to judge people. But a lot of my gay friends tell me that this has gone too far, way too far, and they push against this. So it's like, as a society, this is kind of like, again, it's the hill they asked to die on. And if they continue, like, the Democrat Party's dead. If they continue to push this nonsense, I mean, they just won't exist anymore, because they've crossed the line. You go after our kids and you sexualize our children, and every parent, I don't care if they're Democrat, Republican, atheist, Christian, gay, or straight, you go after their kids and they're gonna shut you down.
Well, when you start looking into the globalists and you go down this rabbit hole, and I know that I'm not going to go too far down it, but the more you find out that the people that are at the top, that are really behind this stuff, hate kids, they hate people, and they do worship a God, but it's not the same God I do. And they don't hate their own children with the way I would. And I'll leave it at that, not go any further. But you can go down that rabbit hole and be traumatized. And it's not fun, but we have to face the facts and quit pretending like things aren't happening that are happening, because we're not going to ever be able to get anywhere if we continue to deny truth. And this is, a study of menstruation cycles in men is insane. And I do believe that people were that psychotic in the left that they were actually studying this. That's insane.
Well, we had Dylan Mulvaney talking, I think last year he was on camera talking about how he was speaking to his father about how he was going to get pregnant with a baby. And he was like, how are you going to get pregnant with a baby? He's like, no, I can have a baby. Like, this is someone who's like the tip of the spear for the trans movement. Dylan Mulvaney told his father that he's going to get pregnant, and he can, because boys can have babies.
Okay, moving on. I'm done.
Me too.
How do you do that?
It's too early to have a cocktail, but I feel like
you guys, please, please procreate and have more children so we can have common sense into the world. We need more common sense. We need parents that are actually parents. Please parent your children. Do not give them to the government to parent, and make sure that they're not being indoctrinated with this nonsense. That's just crazy. So Tom actually asked me when I was on his show last week, he said, you need to have some more RNC members on. I'm like, I do. We have some awesome RNC members. And so
he says that you're the only one he can trust. So he wants to meet the others.
Honest one. So there's another honest RNC member. She is a patriot badass. Her name is Amy Kremer out of Georgia. Welcome, Amy. Yay.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here with y'all.
It's
I'm just a mom fighting for what I believe in. That's all I am.
Amen.
Oh, that's all any of us are. When I first looked Amy up, so she reached out to me because there are 47 new people in the RNC. And she was, I want to talk a little bit more about that, but she called me and I'm like, her and I, we just really hit it off. And so kind of like you and Andrea did, you and I, Andrea, we hit it off right away. There's never been any issues. We just clicked immediately. Same thing with Amy.
Yep.
And so you look her up, and one of the first things that come up is a story from the AP News that says Amy Kremer helped organize the pro-Trump January 6th rally. Now she is seeking a Georgia seat at the RNC. And I'm like, oh, I like her.
Perfect. Yeah, we like her already. You go to the AP and you can really go, okay, yep, that's a good person.
Oh, yeah, no, they don't like her. So she's got to be awesome.
Yeah.
And Amy, you were telling me today that you just got involved with the Republican Party. Now, I often say I never personally, I always voted Republican, but I did not really get involved with the party until they stole the election in front of us. And then they pushed us and said, we know that you know that we stole it. What are you going to do about it? And I'm like, crap. So, and I saw all these Republicans that were like without any spines folding like paper. And so I'm like, okay, well, we got to have some spine in the Republican Party. If we're going to take back the Republic, we have to take back the Republican Party. So I put on my muck boots and jumped in the swamp. And so tell me about, you said you very recently got involved yourself. So how did that come about?
Well, I've always voted Republican, but I'm one of the founders of the modern day Tea Party movement. So I've always been on the outside pushing on Republicans to do the right thing. I mean, anybody that knows the Tea Party movement knows that the Tea Party movement was founded because we were sick and tired of the out of control spending and growing government and infringing upon our constitutional rights. And so fast forward from there, I founded Women for Trump and Women for America First. And then in 2020, when the election was stolen and nobody was doing anything, I mean, the RNC, the big PACs, everybody that had all this money, nobody was doing anything. And so I just did what I knew to do. And that was get in the streets and start organizing people. And so we are the group, Women for America First. We held the first two big rallies in DC on November 14th and December 12th in 2020.
Oh, awesome.
And then we held the rally on January 6th at the Ellipse. In between that time, we had the March for Trump bus going across the country, rallying at different capitals and town squares across the country. So after January 6th, and we became a target, Women for America First became a target of the DOJ, of the J6 committee. I mean, we were the first in the round of subpoenas that went out with the J6 committee. We've literally, lived through 4 years of tyranny and hell. Thank God, we had our freedom. We never went to jail, but it's all impacted us in different ways. But what really got me to jump into the Republican Party is I had done stuff in Georgia before. I mean, like we launched a recall of Raffensperger in 2021, and then we tried to get paper ballots in 2023. So I've worked with Republicans across the country in 49 of 50 states, actually, from the RNC all the way down to the county level, but I've never been a member of the party, so to say. And so when Trump was arraigned in Atlanta, our chairman, David Schaefer, was a target. Well, when the investigation started by Fani Willis, he was a target of Fani Willis, our chair. And he could not speak out to defend the electors or defend the Georgia GOP. So I called on our national committee man and committeewoman, because they were two highest level officers next to the chair who could speak on behalf of the Georgia GOP, and they knew nothing had been done wrong. And I called on them to stand up and speak out. Radio silence. And this is in a signal group where they got the message. I know they got the message. Radio silence. So then I say, you know what? Women for America First will hold a press conference. You come and speak. We have to push back on this. We have to defend the Georgia GOP. Again, radio silence. So then I went and wrote an op-ed. I think it was like Democrats bring Fight Club to Atlanta and the GOP is MIA. And I called out our national committee man and committee woman again, and Ronna McDaniel, still radio silence. So when Trump came to Atlanta that day and was processed through the jail and then released, no one was there holding a press conference, speaking out or anything. And that made me so angry. And so I said, you know what, this can't stand. We're no longer in the days of just being a cheerleader for races and being the party, holding parties and cocktail receptions. Like, we need warriors. We need fighters that are willing to go into battle and push back on this enemy that is at the gate. And so I ran. They didn't think I could win. I mean, when I won, there were audible gasps in the audience. But I won, and I was elected for the same reasons that you and so many others were elected, because they want change. They want the party to represent these people, want the culture of the party to change, so that the party no longer exists to provide cover and protection for politicians, but the party exists to represent the people and to hold the politicians accountable. Because at the end of the day, you have no party without the base. And so it's about time that the party represents we the people. And so when Laura and Whatley came in, when President Trump got Laura and Whatley in there, and they pledged to, secure the vote and win and to be on the legal front, they did everything that they said they were going to do. We won. And now we can't let all that be for nothing. We have so much more to do. And I think, Charity, part of our job is, and what Whatley's talked about this, is that there are many people that are Trump voters that are not Republicans. Yeah. They've never wanted to be Republican. They are not Republicans. And if you go back to 2016 and what happened in 2018, when Trump was elected, he brought so many people into politics that had never voted before. And they come out and they vote for him, really turn out. And then after he's elected, they go back to their lives. They don't turn out in 2018, and we lose the House. And it was all downhill from there. We cannot allow that to happen. President Trump cannot do what he needs to do without the House and the Senate. And that is incumbent on all of us to make sure that we hold the Senate, build our majority there, but more importantly, hold on to the House and build the majority there. So there are 47 new members at the RNC, unprecedented number. And I believe we were elected, as I said, because people want change. And so that's what we were sent there to do. And I'm feeling good about it. We're new into this process. I know that y'all are going through the convention process with leadership on your county and district and state level. We are too, but we serve 4-year terms and we have a lot to do, and we're just getting started.
I agree. When I first joined the Republican Party, not when I joined, when I started getting involved, they said, your job is to raise money and get behind everyone with an R behind their name.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, that's what the establishment does. My job is to hold politicians accountable and make sure that the Republican Party represents Republicans.
Right.
We do need to raise money to do that. We do need to sit behind. But in Oklahoma, and I get pushback from establishment on this, but I picked my guy in the primaries because in Oklahoma, that's where they steal the elections. That's where you're going to be between a rhino and a patriot. And so we get involved here in the primaries, and, and of course, all of the establishment, all of the rhinos are like, you can't do that. You can't do that. I was like, county chair, I was like, all day long, I'm going to pick in the primary. I did it locally, even as the national committeewoman. I'm like, this is our guy. This guy is the other one was a Marxist. Right. And so I was like, I pick him in the primary. That's where it's going to be won for the Republican Party. And so we have to. It is not about raising money and getting behind a Republican. It is about getting behind a patriot Republican. Yes, you need to raise money, and then holding them accountable. That's the purpose. Right. Raising money is not the purpose. It's just what you have to do.
For the Republican Party, what I've always said is we have to stand for something. We have to have a platform, and we do. But it gets ignored by rhinos. And again, in my state too. And I've run a lot of campaigns, Amy. So it's like I've run gubernatorial campaigns and senatorial campaigns and even mayoral. I get involved at the local level. I try to get involved as much as I possibly can. And it drives me crazy how often I've been told, I've been pulled aside and said, they tell me, no matter, if your guy wins or not, you have to vote red. You have to toe the party line. And I said, no, I vote with integrity. And I follow people who stand for something. So if this person is standing for Marxism, or if they're actually a rhino and they're a snake in the grass, I don't have to do anything, because that's what my founding fathers built this country on. The fact that our platform has been so watered down and demolished and taken over by the other side, people don't understand that for a long time, Democrats have been running as Republicans in order to get us into such a dire place.
So in Georgia, that is one of our biggest problems.
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
It was about 20 years ago, there was a change where you cannot win in the state unless you have an R next to your name. And so we have Democrats that actually run as Republicans. And I'll say this, look, we saw the Democrats take us right up to the precipice, to the edge, where we were going to lose our capitalist, society based on freedom and liberty, and we were going to be taken over by socialist, Marxist Democrats. We experienced it. We lived through it. Every single one of us lived through it. And you know who stopped it? The Republican Party. The Republican Party stopped that from happening, and it was with Donald Trump at the top. This is the thing. Don't think that because we stopped it, that they're never going to try it again. They're not giving up. They are working diligently underground behind the scenes to organize, to get things happening, because they are going to push in 26 to take back the House and the Senate. And then in 28, it's for all the marbles. And so what I would say is, the Republican Party actually stopped America from becoming that socialist Democrat society, even going to communism, right? But I would even take it a step further and say that the Republican Party under Donald Trump's leadership, saved Western civilization, because if America falls, Western civilization falls. And the fact of the matter is that Trump is not going to be at the top of that ticket in 26, nor in 28. So it is up to us. President Trump cannot come and save us. And like I said, he cannot do this by himself. So it's up to us, and it's incumbent upon us to be out there, to be organizing, to get people engaged. Those people that are Trump voters that believe in the America First agenda, we need them to come into the fold and to push forward this America First agenda and push forward these policies, because right now it's President Trump. In 4 years, it's going to be J.D. Vance, Vice President J.D. Vance, who I absolutely love. And I think that is our way forward. So it's not just about saving America, but it's about saving Western civilization. And we are standing in the gap. And if not us, then who? I don't think there is anybody else.
I'm glad you said that. So that is the whole point of the Freedom Brigades. So those of you that watch know that the Freedom Brigades take 4 hours a month of your time, because I know that the enemy attacks everybody's time. 4 hours a month of your time, and you can take back your community. Go to freedombrigades.com and sign up, but also get involved in your local party. I started by going to a local meeting. And then I saw what was going on, and I decided to go for county chair. And then I was asked to run for state chair, and I decided to go for national committeewoman. I felt like the national committeewoman was especially atrocious and needed to go. There are some dishonest things happening. And so that was why I chose to do it. But you can get involved. You don't have to run for leadership, but we need to vote.
Right.
So like in Oklahoma, right now, they're having the conventions across the state to decide who's going to be the county chair, the county vice chair, and who's going to sit on the state committee, which is going to make the decisions for the party. It matters if you show up to that. In Oklahoma, we're seeing huge wins. There's only one county that I'm aware of that we haven't taken so far. The rest of it, and the grassroots here are using the brigade structure. We've been organized and talking and communicating this is our third year of really just taking it back. And so, and we are, it's tremendous how we're always communicating. And you have to show up though. How we're getting it done is by the numbers. You get the numbers by showing up to the party.
We start flipping one table at a time. We're flipping tables.
And Charity, I don't know how much time we have, but I do want to say too, this is not easy. The 47 new members, I call us MAGA, America First. I think we're all pretty much there. We were elected for the same reasons. And there were others that were
some of the older people that were there that have been there longer. They are patriots, and they're like waiting for you, the MAGA. So there are a lot of people in the RNC. You guys, the RNC is full of good people that share our values. I really believe that.
But at the end of the day, I don't think it's so much a fight on the ideology. I think everybody there is America First. If anybody there is not America First, they should not be there. But furthermore, they shouldn't be in this country. Right? Get out. But it's the process, right? The people want to see more from the Republican Party. That's what they want to see. So, and I do think there is a battle for the soul of the party going on, at every level across the country. But we also have to be realistic and pragmatic and know that we can't win. The establishment can't win without us. We can't win without the establishment. It takes all of us coming together and pushing that America First agenda. We can't be about personalities. We have to stay focused on the issues, but it is going to be a battle at the RNC. I mean, there's people that have been there probably, almost as long as I've been alive. Well, maybe not that long, but pretty close. I mean, there's people that have been there a long time and they're resistant to change. And I get that. As we get older, we just become resistant to change. Humans are resistant to change. And so with that being said, though, we do have a block. There is a group of us that we are organizing, and we do want to be heard. And the thing is, it's not about us. This is what people have to remember. It's not about us as individuals. It's not about me, Amy Kremer, as the National Committeewoman for Georgia, or Charity, the National Committeewoman for Oklahoma. It's about our constituents, because we have constituents, and it's about we are their voice. And so shutting us out or kicking us out is essentially shutting out and kicking out the grassroots. And that's what people need to understand, is these people want to have a voice. And right now we have been elected to give them their voice. Would you agree with that, Charity?
Absolutely. And I think that we're doing that. I feel like the RNC has been very welcoming.
Yes.
And everything seems to be very fair. I wish that it was like that at every state level. But
yes. We don't need to go there.
Yeah, we're not going to have to go there. I've already talked a little bit about it on my show, about some of the atrociousness, but
I think the biggest thing is transparency. Like when people talk about the grassroots are taking our country back, but and we're going to have Saundra on in a minute, and she is the epitome of this. We the people want is transparency. We're sick of the corruption, and you can't hide it anymore. And like what you said, people are resistant to change. Well, a lot of the campaigns I ran, they said, you can't do it like that. And I was an outsider. I hadn't run campaigns.
We've never done it that way.
That. They said, she's not a DC consultant. She doesn't play by the same rules. And I said, do you want to keep playing by the same rules? And do we want to keep doing it the same way? If we look at the globalists who are trying to take over our country, and we look at the DNC and what they do, they are very smart with their media and with their messaging. And they do all those Marxist tactics of psyop, psyop, psyop. And meanwhile, the Republican Party was sitting there going, we miss Reagan. Well, you know what? We all miss Reagan, but we're not in Reagan days anymore. We have
He's not coming back.
He's not coming back. We have to get smart. We have to stay ahead of this. And we, the people, just keep asking for transparency. I mean, I think it's, for me, the moment that was like the most shocking was when I realized that those of us who were pushing to vet candidates to make sure that they're not rhinos, were getting pushed against hard. And people like Charity who were saying, hey, it's time for the Treasury people to be able to see the books. We were always asking for transparency.
Yes.
And I mean, I wouldn't let anyone babysit my kids. I wouldn't even let someone walk my dog without vetting out their background and who they are. But the Republican Party was letting anyone in, and they slap an R next to their name, and I'm supposed to vote for them because they have the most money. Well, guess what? The people with the most money are the ones that aren't getting my vote anymore. I want the poor person who's been vetted out by the real patriots to be a real good person, because usually the rich people are the rhinos.
Well, it does. It's not always that clear cut, but it does.
No, it's not. But
it does seem to be.
In the beginning, that's kind of where I was
very
where
messy.
I was like, the guy with the biggest purse scares me the most. And I always talk about my grandmother. I've always voted Republican. My family's from East Texas. We're all red through and through. But I always say, my grandmother, the way she voted, it was always, she'd get the mailers. Whoever had the most commercials, who had the most radio ads, and who had those fancy mailers that came in the mail, and, oh, he's great, he's Republican. She thought every Republican was great. But again, she's from the Reagan days. Right now, we've been infiltrated by Democrats who run as Republicans.
Well, we showed in Oklahoma that at least in Oklahoma, the game has changed, because in the primaries, we primaried out a lot of incumbents, even the Speaker of the House, which was unprecedented. And we were the people that won were outspent. The incumbents outspent them by hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the grassroots, because we picked the races that were most important, and we drove and we did the work, because that's where it's going to come down to, is who is going to do the work.
You knocked on doors, you shook hands, you kissed babies, all those things, but you got the information, the truth to people.
Right. That's when I grew up. Right. So I grew up you had to know something about politics, or you wouldn't be able to contribute anything at the dinner table at night. And so I thought Reagan was like pretty close to God when I was a kid, right? And I'm not saying he's not, but I'm saying back then people had the luxury of talking about it in their homes and their social clubs and not really doing anything. And there was too much of that for too long. And now, even though we have Trump, who I think may arguably be the best president in the history of America, I truly believe he might end up.
I agree.
He can't do it alone. We
No.
do not have the luxury of going to social clubs and talking about it anymore. That's why we have the brigades. That's why Amy is asking you to go to your meeting with your Republican Party locally. Because
and what Amy's been talking about is we have 2 years. Okay. Trump, it's not 4, it's 2. She's talking about
and honestly, Andrea, it's not even 2 years.
Yeah, it's less,
you start the primary process early on. I mean, we're almost at a year for the primary for our Senate race, which will be one of the biggest Senate races in the history of this country next year. So it's not even a year, and you cannot wait until 2 weeks before an election to get engaged.
Exactly.
Like, it's about building relationships, building trust, nurturing those relationships, and really making a difference. And I will say that courage is contagious and happiness is contagious, and using the tools available to us, the social media, to tell the story of what you're doing to make a difference. Because when people are sitting at home and then they see you storytelling on X or on Rumble or Facebook, wherever, people want to be a part of it. They want to be part of something bigger. And I will even say, you're right. Usually it is the candidate with the most money, but like, I cut my teeth in politics on congressional Senate races, House and Senate races back with Tea Party Express. I was the chair of Tea Party Express. And when Ted Cruz got into that race, he was the Solicitor General of Texas. He had no name ID. I think he was polling at 1 to 2%. And he was taking on primarying David Dewhurst, who was the Lieutenant Governor of Texas. And in Texas, that's the position that has the most power. And he had more money than God. So it was like, how is Ted ever going to do this? Well, Ted did it by traveling that state, going to all the counties, going to the meetings, going to, meet and greets in people's homes and stuff. So it can be done. Don't let these candidates that have all the money be a discouragement to you, because President Trump was outspent by Hillary Clinton and he still won. I mean, he was just outspent, we still won. I mean, I do think goodness prevails, but we cannot sit back and do nothing. We have to be a part of that process in order to win.
And what you just brought up is something that DC consultants called me up and said, what are you doing? What are you doing with your races? And I said, do you remember reality TV? If I can get in the hearts and minds of people with this, right? People sit and look at their Twitter, they look at their reels all day long. Why would we not, in politics, use every angle to get in front of people with our truth and show our heart and show our courage and show our optimism? And for the longest time in the political consulting world, they were scared to always show their candidate as a real human being. They didn't want to show them weak. Well, guess what? That's the past. We want to know who someone really is on their good days, their bad days. I encourage my candidates to do a daily video and throw it out there. Whatever you're feeling, react to the news or talk about what you're doing with your family. It's hard to lose your privacy, but when you're a public servant, that's what you do. And I trust those who will show themselves that way more than I trust someone who has to always be given a script and they have to have their questions given to them ahead of time. I want to see people real and raw. And the candidates that are winning are doing exactly what you said. They're going to social media and they're connecting with real people as a real person, not fake.
Yeah, and they're genuine and authentic.
Look we have Joe Rogan is our biggest voice of news now. We got Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson. Those two people are the most real, raw individuals that I've ever seen in media. Like, politicians need to stop with the political BS. Yeah,
President Trump
absolutely.
is too. And that's why people love him, because he is so raw and he says exactly what he's thinking. And most of the time he's thinking exactly what we're all thinking. And so people love him for that reason. And so it is, but let's be real too. And look, I work with many DC consultants. the model is changing
It is,
because
rapidly.
you
It has to.
yes, I mean, the internet has changed our lives.
Yeah.
Everything has changed, but the model has always been the money that they spend to go up on TV and radio.
Yes.
They make money off of that.
Mhm.
So they don't want to divert
Exactly.
people.
They're
away
not going to
from
make
TV.
money off your social
Right.
media, but guess
Right.
what? You'll win off of it. Yes.
Right. So
But we also need to be looking at the elections, ladies. When we sat in what the RNC did with the presidential election, that was supposed to be an hour meeting. I think it went like an hour and 45 minutes, and they just kept going into everything that they did to stop them from stealing this election. The RNC, actually, it was the church praying, and then God used the RNC as the vehicle that stopped them from stealing that election. But we need to be looking closer at those too. I know the brigades do it in the different states. This was brought to me yesterday. This is in Oklahoma, where you have one voter and the same name, same address, different voter with a different ID. We found
it's a problem all across this country.
There are so many things like that we need to be paying attention to. So Debbie Georgatos, and I believe she said she's talking about this publicly in Texas, introduced an idea to me. Maybe it's not how it's introduced to you, that I think is fascinating, that I'm really thinking I'm going to push for it here. She's saying after every presidential election, clean the voter rolls completely.
Yes.
Just blank them out and make people re-register to vote. The more I think of pros and cons of that, I keep coming back to this is it. This is every 4 years you have to go register to vote. That's one of the ways. And then of course there's a lot of different things that need to be done, but I think that because the voter rolls are so corrupt, that alone do so much. Then go to paper ballots, right? And deal with the mail-in ballots with honor. And, there's several things, but I heard her say that and I was like, oh, wow.
I'll say this. Sorry, Andrea.
No. Go ahead. No, Amy.
I'll say this about the election integrity, because I mean, that is where I've been over the past 4 years on the election integrity efforts and focused on that. And it is a huge movement that has swept this country. And I am glad that the RNC got engaged. But one of the questions I was asked when I was running for this position was, what role is it in what is the RNC's role to secure our elections in our state? Well, the RNC cannot secure our elections in our state. There are 50 states with 50 different election laws. It falls upon us, the people. Now, there are things that the RNC can do, like engaging on the legal front, with all the lawfare and that sort of thing. If President Trump, people think that President Trump can go in and change to paper ballots, get rid of all the machines and all the things and change our election laws completely. He doesn't have the right to do that. I mean, because each state does have their own election law. So you need people that are tuning into this right now. You need to engage with the people leading the election integrity efforts in your state, because like here in Georgia, I can tell you, one of the biggest problems with election integrity here in Georgia and our voter rolls is that our Secretary of State refuses to clean the voter rolls. He absolutely refuses. And the Democrats have gone in and advocated to get rid of the machines here, but they don't want to they don't want to clean the voter rolls. Well, why don't they want to clean the voter rolls? I mean, you have to ask that question. So what I would tell people listening and tuning in, I love what Debbie Georgatos has done. I think that she's speaking out, and I know this is big on her heart, the election integrity effort, but I want people to engage in their own state, because while we can sit here and talk about it, every single state is different, and you need to be on the front lines in your own state. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. We have fantastic people doing this in Oklahoma. I did it for a while. Andrea actually hooked me up with some people that I was working with on it, and I had to give it to someone else because I was being stretched too thin. But I do believe that this is a God-led movement, and there are people that God has put in every state that this is right. If that is driving you and on your heart, you need to be looking into this, and you need to be taking the lead on it. God has us all playing a different part in this, and this is very much a nameless, faceless movement.
Right.
Amy, thank 100%. You for your time today. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, ladies.
She's probably the one I am closest to in the RNC. Just
I see why.
She has to deal with me every now and then on the phone.
No, I mean, I wouldn't say I have to deal with you. I would say we're friends, but you know what? I mean, it's all for the cause, right? So I
It is.
appreciate you and what you
Absolutely.
do. And thank you, Andrea, for all that you do. And y'all just keep up the fight.
Thank you, Amy.
Thanks,
Keep fighting
Amy.
in Georgia.
Thank you.
Georgia is the freaking battleground. Like when she was talking about Fannie Willis, I did a bunch of deep dive into Fannie Willis just real quick about all the just like their clubs, the nasty little like sorority clubs that she's part of. I mean, the control that the globalists have in Georgia, it is frightening. Like you fall down the Fannie thing and you see how there's deep-seated control over Georgia. So God bless her.
It seems to be pretty thick over there. It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes Oklahoma feel like, makes it feel a little like water instead of a swampy, which is impressive. It's impressive. I want to give a shout out to Tom Renz on the Tom Renz Network. Thank you, Tom, for always promoting our stuff and partnering with us in a big way. And to America Happens, who always puts our shows out there. Them is amazing and everything they do. I love their content. So thank you guys. Also, don't forget to go to freedombrigades.com and go to the shop tab. A lot of the affiliates, we had Dan on last week, a lot of the people that are freedom-minded, that are selling you products that will not kill you, as opposed to what's going on at Walmart and in other parts of the world. You can buy meat that is not poisoned. We have special deals for you there. So if you go to Freedom Brigades and go to the shop tab, check out and see what the different specials are this week. But I have back one of your favorite guests, Andrea.
She's my favorite.
Donkey Milk Lady.
Donkey Milk Lady.
Saundra Traywick. Hey, Saundra, how are you?
Good. Thank you for having me back.
I am so glad to see you. You're a lot of fun. I like being in Oklahoma because it's the coolest place to live. You're missing out totally, Andrea. But you are always doing something else, Saundra. You've also helped with some of the medical freedom stuff we've been doing, and the chats where we're busy and we're getting stuff done and we're collaborating. You come in and you're always you don't stop. And I appreciate everything you do. Last time you talked with us about the humanure, which is disgusting. How much feedback did you get from that? I got some feedback when that aired.
Yeah, we have more and more people who are becoming aware of this happening and are disgusted by it, as they should be. I think we have more cities realizing that this is impacting them too. Unfortunately, the big cities are pretty much the culprits. And often what they do and what these legislators do is they are protecting the cities from having to upgrade their wastewater treatment systems. And then they are taking it to different counties and different districts that don't have a vote in their race. And so it's really, instead of taxation without representation, it is humanuration without representation. So, it's getting more attention. Unfortunately, we had our representative that had a great bill, and that one was never heard in committee. And then our senator had another great bill that was also never heard in committee. And unfortunately, we're trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, but we have a legislator running some legislation to ban it, but it's under the consideration of, I want to work with everyone. I'm like, okay, it's either a ban or it's not a ban.
We'll give it to Tom Gann. He has a backbone and he'll run it anyway. Representative Tom Gann will run it, and he doesn't want to play those stupid games.
Yeah,
that's insane. There's a few of them, but once they get in there, you start seeing the spine become paper and fold.
Right.
I got to tell you, so I used to like pools and stuff, and as I've gotten older, I've become a little bit more of a germaphobe. I can't mentally prepare myself enough to do a public pool. When I did children's church and I would rent out the public pool, I would immediately go home and shower, and I was just grossed out the whole time, trying not to show it. I can't do I'm becoming I can't do it, right? I don't even want to be in a pool with people, and I'll just stay at home and do my own thing. And so water parks, I used to love them. My germ thing has totally ruined that. I can't do that either. I'm grossed out. Yeah. So this idea of actually taking human
and natural ways
on the crops.
Yeah.
I can't.
I drove my girls to their homeschool co-op this morning and drove past a field where the big trucks are dumping tons and tons of human and industrial waste. And then as I'm driving on the highway, I realize I'm driving through literal crap. It is spread all over the highway, scattered everywhere. And I was like, that's it. I told my daughter, I said, call the guy at the DEQ, which I have his phone number. And I told him what's going on. Yeah. And I'm like, this is happening right now. He said, oh, we'll get somebody out to clean that up. That's not acceptable, blah, blah. I'm like, there are cyclists that ride their bicycles through this and do not know what it is, or that it has staph and all these viruses and heavy metals, not to mention the forever chemicals, PFAS, all of this. And then I came home hours and hours later and it's still there. And it's just disgusting. I mean, it's like that gets embedded in your tire treads. And it's disgusting. And it's
what's disgusting is even the treated water is disgusting. I mean, we're finding out that like all the pharmaceuticals that people ingest are still in our water. You can get it in the shower. It's in the water they say has been treated for drinking water. Well, they don't take all the medicines and stuff that go down your toilet. It's gross, but through your pee, like the birth control and all the estrogen and all the stuff that's affecting, you're getting it in the clean water, let alone what you're talking about is they don't care about the nasty water they're putting on top of crops.
Yeah, no, while I had him on the phone, I was like, well, let's talk about this. Have you notified the farmers of the contamination issues happening outside of Fort Worth, where they say this is Chernobyl? They're asking for federal aid because they've contaminated the area so badly. Horses dying, cows dying, fish dying. And he said, I finally got him nailed down. And he said, no, we don't tell the farmers. And no, until the EPA tells us we have to tell the farmers, basically, we're not going to. And I mean, I was just like, how is this possible? I actually said, wait, I thought you were the Department of Environmental Quality and you protected the environment, not industry. And that kind of set him back a little bit. But I'm sure I'm not their favorite person and they probably have my number.
Well, you know what's so hard when you're talking to a lot of these type of individuals is they go, lady, I'm just doing my job. Well, guess what? There's blood on your hands, okay? You cannot be just complicit, like just whatever, to crimes against humanity. If you're hurting people, I don't care if your boss told you. No, you can't. It's wrong.
Yeah, and then when they say, oh, we're waiting on the EPA, or I'm like, what? You do above and beyond. When you know what's right, you do better. And so we don't sit and wait on the EPA. That's one thing I see that just drives me insane. They will say, on the one hand, our legislators will say, oh, we hate the EPA. We don't want to be under the EPA. And on the other hand, they use the EPA to be their scapegoat for whatever they don't want to do. And I mean, we're seeing that multiple states across the Midwest are trying to put in legislation to essentially protect the big chemical manufacturers that have been using chemicals and not telling farmers. And now there's lawsuits about the cancers, the non-Hodgkin's lymphomas. And we're seeing this bill in Oklahoma. And they're saying, oh, we have to protect them. We have to protect glyphosate. We have to protect these industries from liability. And as long as they follow the EPA's labeling requirements, then they shouldn't be liable, essentially. This is what this bill is about. And I'm like, but the EPA does not recognize glyphosate as causing cancer. So once again, they're like backpedaling and saying, oh, well, they did what the EPA told them to, so they shouldn't be liable. I'm like, this is a common theme here. So we had a bill try to go through protecting the wastewater treatment companies and the cities from liability for contaminating farmland. As long as they followed the law, they shouldn't be liable. And now we have one, as long as they followed EPA, they shouldn't be liable. I mean, we've seen this with vaccines, all of this.
You blew my mind a minute ago. I did not realize the EPA is not admitting that glyphosate causes cancer.
Right.
That is very well known. That has been documented. It is not something that is even considered conspiracy theory anymore, I didn't think.
No, I mean, this is what I'm arguing with. And I actually, from me sharing on this, and we have some great freedom fighters, and health fighters here in our state. And so I'm like, no, this is what this is all about, because most of the lawsuits that are being won are from farmers, gardeners, individuals that are getting them on the fact they did not label it properly. It's kind of like you can smoke a cigarette. It says on there this causes cancer. It's on you if you get cancer. You can't sue. So if they don't have to label that this causes cancer, because the EPA still doesn't admit any causation to cancer,
that's why. Yeah.
then they're not liable.
Mm-hmm.
And so it goes back to, and there's currently laws trying to be passed on putting in safe setbacks to these wind turbines that are now over 700 feet tall, what they're proposing on land, almost as tall as the Devon Tower, this skyscraper, And so I think that Devon Tower is 820 feet. These are like 750 feet. Well, we have no regulations. I was joking with somebody. I said, I cannot make a jar of jam in my kitchen and sell it without all these regulations, commercial kitchen, commercial vent hood, all of this stuff, permits, all of this. But I could put a 750 foot tall wind turbine on my property. No biggie. And there's no setback regulation to my neighbor's house. It could be as close to that property line as we could possibly get it. And so we have, on the one hand, our legislators saying, we're Republicans, we don't want any regulations. But then we are also saying, only regulations for you, small business owner that wants to make a few extra bucks by making some canned strawberry jelly in your kitchen, but not for these big, huge green energy industries.
They're going to tear up the roads and cost everybody money. That's not, I mean, you're actually taking away our right to be healthy and to not waste our money. And
actually, I was like, okay, this is subsidized by the government,
right.
And it is, we're talking about these things when they ice up, they're still, and then when they start going again, they can throw ice. I mean, a man was cut nearly in half by ice throw. He was obviously killed. They've documented, and these are probably...
Where did that happen at?
I don't know what state it is in. And part of the problem is too, and I understand why, but when you do a lawsuit, then typically if you sign an NDA and you never talk about it, you get more money. And so families that have been impacted, when they finally win, here you're offered this many millions of dollars if you shut up and go away, or you get way less if you want to talk about what happened to your family. So you have to really dig to find out all this stuff. And this is on there. Some websites like windaction.org and some things like that, where you can find a lot of these incidents. But there was a fire chief and documented debris throw over 4,000 feet. And this was years ago when they were only 300-ish feet tall. So the higher you go, the farther they're going to throw debris. And when I say throw debris, people think, okay, a little dust, particle, whatever. No, we're talking about throwing stuff that can go through your roof, kill you under your truck, like throw debris projectiles, thousands of feet. And so we're just asking for safety. We want to be able to be safe in our own homes. I mean, shadow flicker, that's another thing that they know is an issue. Are you guys aware of what that is?
Is that where the light is on the back? And so every time the blade goes around, it's like...
Yeah.
Okay.
So as the sun sets, then it's like a fan. And so it gives this strobe light effect. Okay. And that shadow, the taller it is, the farther that shadow is cast. And so there's whole homes that are essentially under strobe light effect of that light continually going over and over and over their house. Yeah. And with children with seizure disorders or adults with seizure disorders, that strobe light effect can trigger seizures in them. And that's proven. And so, I know of a case where the company actually said to this family, we'll put your daughter in the basement. It's like, so when the argument is, we're for property rights and they should be able to make money however they want on their property. I'm like, so I can make jam in my kitchen? Right. Is that where we're going with this? So I can butcher a cow and sell it by the cut without it being USDA butchered? No.
How about we could just, why can't you have a meth lab? Right. I mean, it's your property. I'm just saying.
It's my property. I should be able to do whatever I want. So it's very hypocritical. One set of rules for you, but not for you. And, the same thing with the solar. I talked to a good friend this morning, and they made an investment property, and it's a noose around their neck. It's about 23 acres, not too far from us. And they were just approached from a solar company that's offering them $7,000 a year to lease it for the next 30 years. So how do you turn that down when you're like, I can't sell it because the city is going to put in all these restrictions on a driveway, but they won't put any restrictions on blanketing the thing in solar panels.
It's almost like the city is in bed with the company that's bringing in the wind turbine and getting. I mean, I'm just saying,
that would never happen.
Right.
Yeah.
You telling me that county commissioners might get paid off sometimes? Right. No, that never happens.
Yeah. I mean, it's insane. And it's like, we don't want regulations, but when it is a health and human safety issue, we need someone to come in and say, maybe we don't want a foreign-owned company to be able to do this here. And, right now there's legislation I'm looking at. I'm going, am I reading this right? Because what it says, and I'm a layperson, and this is Republican proposed legislation. It says.
Okay, Republican. Go ahead.
Republican. Yes. Big air quotes on that. Any privately owned corporation or individual that generates electricity of any form and puts it into the grid is then considered a public utility. Individuals or corporations. So does that mean that individual or public corporation or corporation, not private corporation, can then eminent domain?
It sure does seem that way. That opens a whole can of worms, doesn't it? I mean, if you have solar panels on your house, which a lot of people do, they could be a utility. What kind of rights and responsibilities do they have now?
And then what's happening in our state is there's a whole area that could be eminent domain for a dam to dam up the Kiamichi River. And it's a private company that would take the power to Dallas. So why does that private company have the power to eminent domain and take 500 homes, 32,000 acres of land?
For Texas, another state.
For Texas, not even for Oklahoma. And this kind of stuff's happening around the country. It's not just
this is happening in Oklahoma.
Right.
This is Oklahoma, where all 77 counties voted for Trump, where Republicans have led the state. We are the majority, and this is what's happening here.
Right. And so
this is why you have to get involved, because I promise it's happening where you're at.
Yeah. And what they'll do is they'll put a little bit in this bill and a little bit in this bill.
You're right.
And so unless you read all those bills and you see the big picture, okay, wait, what does it mean to be a public utility? Does that mean they can eminent domain your house if they want to put a dam and take your property, your land, whatever? What does all of this mean when you put it all together? And why is everyone voting for it without questioning it at all?
Right. Well, yeah. So how many lobbyists paid them a visit before the vote? I'm tired of this crap. You know what? Lobbying should be illegal. It should be illegal all the way together. Obama, that was the first thing he did right after the Matthew Shepard Act, was he took the cap off lobbying. How could you make it a more corrupt system? And that's at the federal level. But it's illegal. And this kind of crap, it's infuriating, because words don't really express how infuriated I am right now. And have to break down what's wrong with that is insane to me. Like, if you don't know that, please.
Well, and
because you weren't taught anything at all.
It is the lobbyists. Yeah, it's the corrupt lobbyists, but they have corrupt attorneys that they pay. So you have to have a law degree, and you have to be specialized in this area. And what they do, like you said, it's over multiple bills. No bill should be over 3 pages long, in my opinion. Yeah. So they write a bunch of bills, and so they sit down at the beginning of every legislative session and they go, what are our goals? What are the big corporations and the lobbyists want us to do? And then the attorneys sit down there, and like you said, they interweave everything to confuse everyone. Right. Then our politicians don't read the bill. They do exactly what they're told to do. And then we, the people, don't get involved. We don't read the bills, because you have to, sometimes, like I said, have 5 degrees even to understand them.
Yeah.
That's not the way our country was built. That's not the way our founding fathers doctors wanted legislative process to be.
No, and
Andrea, our years at Frontline Doctors, there was a portion of that where we were on the policy team together. Do you remember when I would bring, as the policy analyst, I would bring bills, and this was at a national level, to you guys and say this was a 300-page bill that looked really good until page 76.
Exactly.
And then look, this is in here that has nothing to do with the rest of it.
right.
And that kind of crap is happening all the time.
Well, and Tom Renz, that's what we spend a lot of our time doing. He goes through bills and he finds those pieces. You know, he went through Doge to analyze that. But, you know, like there were banking bills that were going on, you know, a couple of years back, and we kept exposing. These are about CBDCs. You're going to read it and you're not going to think it has anything to do with bringing in CBDCs. But then again, you're on page 452 or something. And Christy Noem, God bless her, in South Dakota, her and her team found the corruption in these bills. Well, they coat every state in similar bills too. Okay. Yeah. So in every state, we had the let's get rid of parental rights tranny bills. Let's do DEI bills. Let's do banking bills that actually is for CBDCs. They hide what these bills are really about deep in there, and they make it as complicated as possible. And unless we, the people, and all of us sit and analyze it, and honestly, I wish there was, I've told Tom a million times, I wish we could put some legislation on the books to make that process not that way. I really think bills should have like a cap. And I think we, the people, should be able to be privy to them. They should be like publicly published way in advance. And all we, the people, I mean, I want them on Twitter. I want them on everywhere. I want everyone to know what's happening in their legislation in real time, because they hide it from us. They do it on like Christmas Eve. They drop a new bill that no one's seen, and it passes and no one knows what even happened.
So well, I want to share something. Go ahead real quick.
No,
go ahead.
I think they should have to pass a pop quiz on every test, on every bill before they can
prove
vote.
that they read them. Yeah, to prove that they read them. They have a staff, and sometimes their staff hasn't even read them. No one reads it. They just do what the lobbyists tell them to do.
Yeah.
So I do want to show our viewers, since you guys have brought this up, there are several places that you can look, but this is something I used, and I actually have an instructional video. If you are interested in that, go to freedombrigades.com and let me know you're interested, and I will send you this instructional video. I'm going to share my screen, Andrea.
Okay.
But you can go to Legiscan.
Yes, I love it.
This is a great tool. And like I said, I do have a place. This is legiscan.com. I do have a place where I actually did a class on this is how to do legislation. You go down here, you can get any state, or you can go down to U.S. Congress. You can look up the bill number, or you can go to search, and then you can just look up, you know, I doubt human manure is going to be one, but
you can plug in biosolids and it'll come up.
There you go. And it'll tell you everything that's on that, or you can look at it by the bill number, by your state, or by U.S. Congress. You can click on it. It'll tell you where it's at. If you click on the bill right here, you can actually read it. And so, they will give you a summary. You can put more detail to it. I will be happy to share that video I made, kind of explaining how to navigate this. But you guys, you can look up your legislation, and that's how. Yeah. I just want to share that before we go.
Aren't they tricky though? I still feel like they change things at the last minute. Like in my state, with the like election integrity, going back to election integrity.
Yeah.
During the beginning of COVID, we're all in lockdown and we're under emergency use, so they think they can do whatever they want, right? Well, they pass a bunch of stuff. Christmas, dead of night, no one's paying any attention about election integrity. It was to steal the elections. They did it. I'm in Nevada. They did it in Arizona. A bunch of states passed the same stuff that was hidden in a bill that no one knew anything about. We just kind of woke up after Christmas and we're like, oh, so they just legalized election fraud.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the kind of stuff. So we've got to be paying attention. I have good news for both of you. So we're talking about the human manure, which is going to give you, when you're eating the food, okay, that's going to give you issues, right? With pesticides, with what's the word I'm looking for? Like little pests in your body. You can get rid of them, right?
Parasites.
Parasites. Thank you. I couldn't find the word. Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, let me show you on the website. She came out with her own line of products to help detox you from all of this nastiness that they're putting in your food and that's in our society, right? From all the chemtrails that they're giving you as well. If you go down, going down a little bit further. Oh, there she is right here. You can use promo brigades and get 15% off. Sherry Tenpenny, who is our hero, who's been talking the truth about vaccines for decades. She has her own line of supplements that will help you get get back to healthy and get back to the way God designed us to be. And then the donkey milk, which you talked about more last time, which is amazing. So like the stuff God gave us is most natural and most effective. Of course.
Absolutely.
Of course. And it's best for you. So where do we go? I know that we had it up for you earlier. Where do we go?
Donkey Milk for Health. Yes. And that's our skincare, Dulce de Donkey, and our nonprofit where we help kids with scholarships and things for the alternative stuff that doesn't get covered by insurance. And we also have health events at our farm is hehaw4health.com. But for the donkey milk, they can go to donkeymilkforhealth.com.
Awesome. Saundra, thank you for everything you're doing. Thank you for joining us, guys. Join the Freedom Brigades. Take back your community. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
God bless.
Bye.
God bless.
Thank you.